We are
And
live.
this
My
is
name
called
is Hetal
sanity for us,
Doshi.
Hetal.
Sorry, we're live now. My name is Hetal Doshi, and I'm an organizational psychologist. We do a lot of work with corporates. At this point in time, I have been pushed to make sure I also do my part in community building, and as part of what we think is the right thing to do, we have been trying to have as many conversations with experts and everyday heroes, just like you and I, um, with regards to this amazing concept called mental health, leading to resilience. Today with me are two amazing people. They are our first uh, leaders in the banking industry who've joined us live. So taking a real good, wonderful step to really connect with everybody else on such a unique platform where most professionals tend to like to say, I'm not interested in being on Facebook, but thank you so much. The world has definitely changed. So together with me is Karel Doshi. Karel Doshi is super amazing. She's amazing. I know that because I know her. She's the MD and country head of corporate commercial banking. She's an absolute optimist. Every time that I've known her, she will always pause for a little while and pay gratitude to anything that she can pay gratitude to. That's just how much of an optimist she is. She believes that we can definitely overcome everything in life with hard work, persistence, and tenacity. And so she has. She has grown incredibly in her career with over 19 years of experience across different parts of the banking industry. And through three cycles now, I understand from Carol, three major economic cycles. She definitely believes in being as authentic as possible as a leader. And her favorite tagline is innovate or evaporate. Well, that's like really major. And also, I have a really good feeling that we're going to have a very entertaining session because, well, just from a very short period of time that I've known Shayan, Shayan Hazir is the country head of global liquidity and cash management. I had no idea that heads of the banking world could be funny and entertaining, but here is Shayan. He considers himself a student for the rest of his life, so there's definitely a lot of room over here where he practices humility. He's on search of purpose and leading a very authentic existence as well. Sounds like a very nice recurring theme in HSBC. He really focuses his leadership style on being of service to others. I am very impressed already. So, would you like to just share something a little bit interesting about yourself, Carol and Shayan? Will we start with Carol first? Carol, something about you.
Hi, Het. Hi, Hetal. Thank you for having us. I would say that the biggest piece about me is one, I love what I do, so it drives me every day. And two is that I think what the other piece that I think a lot of you know is my kids. That's what inspires me. I've got two daughters, one 7, one 14. They provide perspective. They keep me grounded, and that's what inspires me to do what I do.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And you're an awesome role model to these two girls as well. They're going to grow up and be super mom like you as well. And Shayan is, I will let Shayan break his wonderful news instead of doing it for him. Shayan,
Yeah, thank
something
you.
interesting about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having us, Hetal. And yeah, since Carol's just ended the conversation with about her kids, and I have to mention mine now because some point my son sees this and see I didn't mention it, it would be wrong. So yes, my son is everything in terms of things I look forward to now, and I'm just a new dad, and so that's been something an all-consuming experience. And I think my wife would disagree that it's all-consuming for me right now, but I try for it to be. And I think the second, like, more interesting bit is that I never really wanted to be a banker, and on some levels I don't really think I am even now, because there are much more accomplished people in this sector than I am in terms of knowledge and experience, but I think what it has given me is a platform to influence and educate and learn a lot, and so it's given me the opportunity to pick up things like training, coaching, be part of the startup ecosystem. So there are some startups that I advise for and run,
Yeah.
and so it's a culmination of many things. So outside of banking, there is life, is what I'm, I guess, trying to say.
Right. And just speaking about the startup world, well, first and foremost, congratulations on being a new daddy.
Thank you.
And second of all, just because you mentioned startup world, shout out to Gopi. We've mentioned you a couple of times
Hmm.
already. All right.
He's not the
So
same guy anymore.
he's not the same
Okay.
after the previous interview.
After your interview, he's not the same. Okay.
Well, he's better. He's better.
He's
Okay,
better here.
or I like to think. So, this has been obviously a very unique experience for all of us. I don't want to use the word unprecedented, although I've just used it. I don't want to use that word anymore. This has just been a unique experience. Put it that way. Maybe Shayan first. What is out of all the major things that have been going on? What is one of the most major changes that you are experiencing in your role, or one major change that you're experiencing in general in the banking industry? Major one.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of my job is to do with technology and digital, and that shift is something that which has been happening quite organically over the last, 10 years, essentially.
Mm.
It's speeded up in the last, 4 to 5 years, and the expectation is that, yeah, we would see that change of adopting all digital for almost every aspect of banking and financial services. That would happen completely in the next 5 years, and we'd see that happening as part of the jobs that we do. But this situation, unprecedented situation, has created some unexpected changes in the digital realm, and what we've seen is clients overnight have shifted, and
Mm.
that obviously is a necessity now, because obviously those who had bricks and mortar retail outlets and things like that now have to go e-commerce,
Yeah.
and with that they need digital payments, and they need digital collections, and they need to be available on mobile and so on. So that's been a
Mm.
massive shift, and a
Mm.
big part of both myself and Carol's world are seeing this happening on a regular basis. So that comes with a lot of
Mm.
different
Mm.
learnings.
Right. So technology, big one for you, huh, Shayan?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. And Carol, what
Absolutely.
about you? What's the biggest change that you're experiencing in this role, or the insights as to what's going on with the whole industry?
As Sharon said, technology is a big thing, but if I take it back a little bit, I think it's two things. One is internally, for
Mm.
us as a team, is finding working from home. It's a new now suddenly become something like a new norm. It's something
Mm.
people weren't used to, and I don't think that was very much front and center of what was in our DNA of our psyche or our psyche. As bankers, you always thought that you needed to go into the office
Yeah.
to function in the way you needed to. So that's the first piece, is ourselves and
Mm.
how we need to evolve ourselves as a team, individually and then as a team. And then second piece is our clients. So as Sharon
Mm.
said, technology is key. But
Mm.
if we look at clients and people that we deal with, they are also looking at shifting business models because
Mm.
they didn't expect this. E-commerce was
Mm.
something that maybe they did 20-30% and they thought that's something important. But
Yeah.
now it's again accelerated that entire change of
Right.
digital penetration, how they need to do, whether their supply chains shift, whether they
Mm.
need to get into e-commerce, all of that has shifted.
Right.
So if I could sum it up, is two things: ourselves and also our clients. I think both things have changed, and we need to look at a different paradigm altogether.
Yeah, super well said. That was really well said. I'll come back to you, Carol, in just a bit. Shayan, you mentioned technology, and there is this funny little joke that goes around. Who's the ultimate disruptor in the company? Is it the CEO? Press A if it's CEO, press B if it's the CTO, press C if it's COVID-19. Why did it take so long for the banking sector to just get their groove on and become maybe a little sexier than they were before? Why does it take something like this to push sectors like the banking industry? And also, what does this mean for leadership? Should we take the harsh approach and just say no and get on with it? Or should we still, do that whole empowering, engaging, getting everybody's buy-in? What do you think about that, Shayan?
Okay, so if I forget to answer some part of that question, just prompt me, please, because I have a tendency to I have ADD.
No
That's a
problem.
separate
I'll do
discussion. Okay, so
that.
I think the why it took us so long is because it never got to a point where everything needed to be overhauled simultaneously.
Mm.
I think it was like we were moving at a pace where we had to keep in mind our revenue models. And I'm going to be very open about this. Like a banking environment worked with, if you thought about it 15 years ago, we had branches, and whoever had the most number of branches was the winner. They had the biggest impact in the market. And so if you
Mm.
had, X branches, and then your competitor had Y number of branches, whoever had the larger number somehow had a bigger footprint and bigger impact.
Yeah.
And as internet banking came in, and digital tools started making their foray into conventional banking, um, that adoption, that understanding that this is going to save cost and it's going to actually increase customer ease of use and user experience and whatnot, that didn't settle very well with traditional banking models, because we
Mm.
have X number of people. Well, we've put a lot of investment in what our structures are. And
Yeah.
so to completely break them down and say, okay, we're going to shut all these branches and here's a mobile phone that's going to solve your problem,
Yeah.
that's actually a complete change in the way in which we manage our business. And so
Mm.
nobody was willing to, the industry wasn't ready to take that hit. And so somebody's got to bite the bullet. And if you look at any other industry, music industry for example, you were
Mm.
listening to CDs at one point in time. And what
Yes.
happened? Napster came in, then iTunes came in, then Spotify came in, and now we've
Yeah.
completely, I mean, who remembers the CD? But I think what is that there was no fundamental technology that shifted banking completely. People improved bits of it. So TransferWise and Revolut and all these new N26, these new virtual banks that are coming up, they're not solving banking. They're solving bits of banking services.
Right. Right.
So some
Right.
on the retail, some on. So banking was like, well, we've got a very strong balance sheet. We can exist like this in this dichotomy model for a little while, this dual model for a little while, and so we'll continue doing it.
Mm.
It was a wait and see. And I think that now, when we've realized that all customers are going to change, then what's the point of us retaining all of that
Yeah.
conventional thinking? So
Yeah.
then that trigger event has caused us to make that shift.
Mm.
And you'll see that happening very, very quickly.
Mm.
So that was the first part of your question, if I
Mm.
answered it correctly. I don't know.
Yes, you
Okay.
absolutely did. I think what struck me the most is that it was the bank that had the most branches that won.
Yeah, it
That is
was.
like, oh my God, the fact that the brick and mortar, like the more of it you had, the bigger the winner you were. And
Yeah.
now it is absolutely not the case anymore. So
Yeah, no, absolutely.
who wins then? If it's not the ones with the most number of branches, then who wins?
The person who can provide the most effective user experience, the
Mm.
bank that provides the easiest way to use banking, that's the
Yeah.
winner.
Right, fantastic. And one question to add on to that before we get to Carol's really the humane part of things is, um, you were also talking about, like we were just talking about, like it took COVID-19 to really kind of disrupt the way that things are. Now non-negotiable, it has to be done. So what do you think about leadership in that regard? Because a lot of times leadership now is about empowerment, buy-in, so on and so forth. But in actual fact, sometimes just having a harsh, oh my God, I can't believe I'm using my hand now. This reminds me of a very interesting culture, interesting part of the culture that
Yeah.
I'm in. But having a harsh hand versus having a very gentle, empowering, or approach. What do you think really works? How do you make a decision on how to go forward with leadership?
You know, I have a lot to say on this subject because I struggle with it a lot myself. I'm no expert in deep technology. Okay, so whether that's artificial intelligence, VR, AR, blockchain, DLT, or any of these things, I mean, I know them enough to know I can have a conversation about them, and I
Right.
know enough to know how I can apply them to different situations. If you asked me, how AI works and what are the algorithms and how do you program a computer, I had no idea. What I realize is that in today's world, and I'm going to be very open and say this, in today's world, if you do not know how to apply these technologies, you cannot be a complete leader anymore, because
Mm.
these technologies have an impact on improving potentially improving every aspect of delivering goods and services, every
Mm.
single aspect. So if
So what are
you
you
are
trying
still
to
trying,
say
sorry.
then? So what are you trying to say then, that leaders in tech need to have the technical expertise as well?
I think all leaders do. I think if you are in the C suite today in any sector and do
Well
not
said.
understand the basics of how these technologies can improve a given situation, processes, internal or to customers, then you have an incomplete view of potential.
Well said. Extremely well said. I think that's where previously people used to say HR belongs to HR, but actually everybody needs to have HR. And
Yeah,
same thing
yeah,
with
yeah.
technology as well. Carol, you mentioned something really very, very interesting. Um, you're saying that the clients don't really need to come to the bank anymore. Where they used to come to the bank, maybe they don't need to come to the bank anymore. I remember my father always saying, the thing that I remember my dad saying the most when you ask him where is he going, he always say, I'm going to the bank. But he's a customer now, and we're not interested in going to the bank, right? So you're saying that clients are shifting their business models. Um, and like what Shayan was saying, this is of dire importance that we check in with the user experience. So, can you tell us a little bit about what is going on with clients, and how might you feel is the easiest way to navigate given this crazy amount of changes that are happening with them? So,
I think
yeah.
the thing with clients is going through step by step with them, because as much as they are going through a change, so are we, and we
Mm,
need to help them through the phases and
mm,
make it easy. To Shayan's point, simplified user interfaces. We need to make it easy and not overly complex, like have 5 logins and then you don't know, you get lost in between because you forget each one of the other password. So
mm,
I guess we go back to fundamentals, Hetal, whereby we spoke about how we go back to basics, where we need to make it easy for people. Now, again, if I take it back, there's always a trigger point, and COVID-19 is a trigger which no one expected. It's
mm,
accelerated our drive into the digital space. And now we got to quickly do what we needed to do, and that is make it easy for our clients. And then
mm,
go through step by step through every process with them, make it easier. And then we're learning together, right? So I guess it's a very open conversations that we have with our clients to say, hey, we're learning as much as you are.
mm,
We're doing things from the house. There may be days whereby bandwidth may not be perfect, but let's do this together, and we're here to help you. So being
mm,
available, being connected, and
mm,
being dependable uh,
mm,
is what
Hmm.
clients really want. And that's
mm.
that's I guess it's always going back to basics.
Yeah, very well said. My God, you've like made this very, what it always seems so complex. Like, oh, this is a new normal. How are we going to deal with clients? And what you're trying to say is that back to basics. Go and talk. Be a real
Hmm.
partner. Be dependable. Be available. Continue the conversation. So you're really making something that seems so extraordinarily difficult uh, become something that is a knowledge that we can rely on, which we had from the past. So, in other words, I guess partnership and conversations, going back to that. And with regards to work from home, Carol, personally, how have you been finding it?
It's about balance.
Mm,
That's what a lot of things are, because we try and adjust. So if I need to help my kids start set up in the morning, I have a 7-year-old, then you start at, or 8:30, because that's what you got to do. And if she finishes at 1:30 and another one's at 3:30, you just try and balance and adjust.
mm,
And there's some days that and we have
mm,
quite open conversations, Shai and I and the wider team, is there are some days where you just need to do a grocery run, because that's the day that you have no choice.
yeah.
So you take a 2-hour lunch break and say, I'm going to get groceries, and then come back and start again. But it's again being go back to basics, being open about it, sending a
Mm,
WhatsApp to our very understanding boss, who I believe is listening in, and telling Andy that, hey, you know what, we can't do this at this point in time, but in 2 hours I'll be back. And then you sort of adjust and continue
right.
the rest of the day. So it's about balance, calibrating or recalibrating, and trying to find a way. But Hetal, I keep going back to being outcome led.
Mm,
You need to ensure your outcomes are met, and
mm,
what's required to be done is done.
mm.
It's just finding ways and means around it.
Yeah, I love outcome led. I absolutely love outcome led. And what I'm hearing as a pattern to you, Carol, is back to basics. I keep throwing in disruption, and you keep saying back to basics, which really simplifies it. People use all these words, and then there's this sense of fear and chaos and uncertainty. It feels really good to hear the words back to basics. And with regards to outcome led, maybe we'll continue to have that conversation in a while. I wanted to ask both of you are in strategic roles, right? So back in the days, strategy used to be something, I remember even as a kid, everyone would say, what's your 3-year plan, 5-year plan, 10-year plan? Everybody thinks like so far ahead. And then as leaders, your promotion leads you to more and more and more strategic roles. But in this world that is changing so rapidly, and it almost feels like it's a tactical thing rather than a strategic thing, um, how then do you make sense of your role? How do you then make the shift from a very strategic place into a very ever-changing kind of a place? Or, sorry, maybe I'll ask a bit more clearly. How does strategy work in an ever-changing kind of a environment?
Well, first of all, let me congratulate Carol for plugging Andy's name, our boss's name, into the Facebook Live. So well done, Carol. And Andy, I think you're great too. It's not only her, FYI. And then secondly, what I'm going to say.
When is the performance appraisal?
Exactly right. I think the second thing, which I think is really important, is that.
And Shayan, I'd like to
Yeah,
congratulate you because that was an excellent pickup.
I know, right?
Picked up really well.
Um, so
It's
so so
authenticity
the
to the core, right? Later you can
Yeah,
see how
exactly.
open we are as a team.
I don't think we're going to be able to move past this conversation, but I'm really
Yeah,
happy either way because whoever gets the promotion, I'm coming in for the party. So
yeah, exactly. So the what I would tell you is that I think if you had a strategy that was based on a bottom line and a top line and a number and a balance sheet, that's out the window. But if you had a strategy that was based on listening to customers and customer centricity, that strategy still exists. It's just that the customer sentiment has changed and the environment has changed to serve those customers. So if you kind of focus on, and I think if my team's listening, this is something that we've been trying to create as our mantra for the last 12 months since I've been in this role. And the idea here is that this is all part of making sure that we have another better opportunity to serve our customers and serve them in even better ways because they are actually challenged with something. So if we want to be of service, our strategy is completely aligned to the situation. Uh, but if we were like, oh my God, our revenue should have been X by now, then we'd be in a little bit more trouble, and I'd be going into a defensive mode. But I think that this is an opportunity to be of service, and both, our management team has always said, put the customer experience first and put the customer first. So that strategy will never fail.
mm, really well said. Yeah, really well said. Nice. And Carol, how do you see strategy in an ever-changing world? Does it still have a place, or should we be
I
a
think,
little bit more practical? Sorry, Carol. We
no,
use
it
the word
is.
pivot so much that we don't even know where we're going anymore sometimes. So, what do you think?
No, but I think what Chan said is absolutely what we live to. Um, the strategy hasn't changed. Customers are still at the core of everything that we do. Fundamentally, as a bank, we still provide banking services to our clients. We still provide outcomes to our shareholders, right? We need to keep the money safe.
Mm,
That's our core role, and that hasn't changed.
mm,
However, the manner in which we do it, that's what's evolved. And
mm,
COVID-19 has accelerated the need for us to evolve. And if I look at that piece, what we've needed to do is that we have had to help our clients get into the digital journey as well. So
mm, mm,
strategy is a big word, right? Again, let's funnel it down to what what it really means, right? It's the way we decide to sort of work our day to day. And we need to just be nimble and agile enough. I know this is a such overused words, and be nimble and agile enough to constantly change. If we started in December, we didn't know we needed to increase digital penetration as much as we've needed to now. But today the push is coming from the clients. I need to become more digital. And that's
Yeah.
how we need to support them. So the fundamentals don't change. We just find a different way to do it. And so strategy is strategy. We still need to plan, but we need to
Right.
be able and open enough to adjust our plans as required with time.
That's fantastic.
I'll just add to that point, and only by saying that when the call from the government came to support corporates in Malaysia, there could have been a circumstance where you just sit back and you wait to react to it. And there's a offensive play to that where you go front foot and do your best to make sure that whatever support that we can extend to corporate customers not only corporate but also retail customers in Malaysia as part of HSBC, we will do that, and we will do that faster and try to do that better than anyone else. And that shows that the core was, how do I make the life of this client easier? If it was always about something else, we could have challenged it, we could have pushed back, we could have delayed. But I think that the aggressiveness and assertiveness with which we went out to the market and pulled together as a team to deliver for clients across our segments was really something that I wasn't expecting to happen as well as it did, to be honest.
Well done. Well, congratulations as well for that.
Thank you.
I'm well. I mean, I'm not sure who's listening, but for me, at least, I'm super clear about what this word strategy means and doesn't mean in this world. And you're absolutely correct. At the end of the day, it stays the same. It's the clients, but how are you going to maneuver and how you're going to deliver it for them and to them in the way that they like it. That is something that you want to reconsider all the time. So, the statistics in Malaysia, well, we'll start with World Health Organization. World Health Organization has actually stated that the leading cause of disease is now depression. That was sometime last year. In Malaysia, in about 2017, if I'm not wrong, we had statistics of maybe about 33% in Malaysia that are going through mental health related conditions, a lot of which are work related. A lot of it are work related. We are also in the space typically where we work with organizations that require two things. Number one, they need success in a materialistic or physical format, and you also need the employee experience. And when we try to drive these two together, we do find that it is not as easy as we would like it to be. I just wanted to ask both of you, how do you feel about the state of work from a human perspective? Do you feel like it's getting more and more and more stressful and more anxiety? Or do you feel like it's getting easier?
Carol, do you want to go? Or do you want me to?
No, go ahead, Shayan. Go ahead.
Okay. So I think the world is becoming a lot more open to having the discussion now. And I think as a financial institution, we have a very strong directive to be both mentally health aware as well as support colleagues who are experiencing that. And the thing about mental health, and you obviously know this, is that once you're in a state, whatever is causing it, there's no distinction between work and home, or it's just life. It's your burden for life. And for me, I'm very open about it. I myself have struggled with it and continue to struggle with, panic disorder, anxiety disorder. It's just something that's been there for many, many years. But I remember, my first job, I was told when I taken leave because of it, they told me never to bring it up again. This is back in 2004 in Pakistan. I'm from Pakistani, so back home. And so it was really weird for me that I thought it was shameful to even bring that up, because it's going to hold me back in my career. It's going to impact me in a negative way. It's going to put a stigma around me. But then after spending a lot of time studying it, going through multiple different therapists, and working through those challenges, I realized that actually it's quite common. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's like any other condition that you manage, and you learn to sort of make it a part of your existence rather than try to constantly hide from it. And that's, I think, a message that we are very committed to in our organization. And I think Carol will also second that. So for me right now, I think this is a great time to embrace people who are struggling, and I think that they're much more open now than they would have been 10, 15 years ago. And we should be very vocal about the conversation. We should put it on, because it's like the other day I was talking to somebody and I said, hey, so how you doing? And every time I speak to the my team, they're like, we're fine. And it's become like this thing you say, and I realize now that nobody's fine. We're living in war conditions, in a crisis, just struggling to keep our heads above water, and can't go out and can't spend time with our families, can't leave the country. This is a complete lockdown. So how can we be fine? And it really, let's have a real conversation about it. And I think that that's what we need to acknowledge. The circumstances are now. It's distressing.
Wow, Shayan.
That was a very deep sharing.
Sorry, I lost the question in the way somewhere. But then I just thought, I'd come back to it.
I think just Shayan, that was amazing sharing. But if I could just add from an organization perspective as well, HSBC is taking this very seriously. There are lots of concerted efforts to actually address mental health as a whole, and COVID sort of reinvigorated the entire piece to take it forward quicker. We've got activities, there are education and resources, there are future plans, there are mental health campaigns. So there are leaders that come out and talk about it as well. So leadership, a lot of times, it starts from the top. And when the leader on top actually is open to share it, I think then that sets the tone for everyone to be open, vocal, and authentic about it as well. So that's what, it's not a stigma. And we as leaders continuously need to look out for little signs, whether someone's tired, whether they can't manage, whether a simple statement like, God, this is too much. These are all little things that we need to pick up. It's no sign of, oh, that person needs therapy, but it just could be a little sign where we could support them and say, hey, you know what, maybe take some time off, look at the silver lining, because there's always glass half full, half empty, right? And it's our responsibility very much as leaders to steer the team to that direction.
I'm really very pleasantly surprised by both of you. I think it's just amazing seeing more and more leaders converse in such a tone and such a manner and with so much of dignity. I think it's just amazing. Shayan, thank you incredibly for sharing something obviously very personal. And I think it's just amazing that when you were sharing about how you were told to not share, and how I can't even begin to imagine how you would have felt in that scenario. And from that to being able to openly share and to talk about it in a manner that is so human, which what I love the most about what you said is you ask people how they are and they say, I'm okay, I'm fine. But how can you be fine in a scenario like this? And having gone through it, having learned about it, having gone through the right path, which is either therapies or alternatives, and then seeking your butterfly state after the caterpillar goes through all of that, you would be the right person to talk about these kind of things. And Carol, Carol, also you were talking a little bit from an organizational strategic point of view, meaning how are we going to make sure that organization-wide we reach every single employee. That's not an easy thing. You can have, like you say, activities, you can have initiatives. But I think what you're trying to say is that, leadership at the top, once you start speaking about it authentically and you share your stories, the stigma just dissipates just like that. And it becomes like, oh my God, yes, me too, exactly, me too. And I think that's, Carol and Shayan, just to let you know, because I think you're just going to be like, Andy's going to have a hard time. He's going to be like, oh my God, I need to promote them, both of them right now.
Yeah. I
What
think he's
was
pretty sick of us right now at this point.
so, we did a poll on our Facebook page, and we have been asking many questions. Okay, we've been around for just about a month, but we've been asking a lot of poll questions. There is only one poll where consistently everybody agreed upon, and that is, have you ever felt like you were drowning? And that was the one where you could see a common human experience, and everybody said yes. Every other poll, you could see dichotomies. So, leaders talk all the time about connecting. But you sharing a story about you drowning is like confirm something everybody can connect with. So thank you so much for that. And Carol, I think what I like about what you're saying is also the educational part, which is how leaders can be educated to become aware of picking up some of these signs as well. So how are both of you uniquely building resilience? Because there's the whole spectrum, mental health related issues, all the way to super high resilience, right? Are there some unique things that you've been doing or consciously not doing to build resilience for your team? Carol, maybe you first.
I think for me, building resilience is we all tend to have. We're all generally quite resilient. Everyone is. You can't do what you're doing if you don't have the resilience, but you need to find it inside of you. And so for me, how in this current juncture is constantly talking to people, checking in, simple conversations, one-to-one, different modes of engagement, and then again sharing open conversations about what we are all going through, because every one of us is going through a different phase,
Mm,
and each one of us needs to deal with different things. So it's being
yeah.
open and picking up those little cues.
Mm,
It's at the end of the day what resilience is all about. If you can
mm,
come out of this strong, I think what keeps you, no, what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger, right?
that's true.
So
That's
that's what it
true.
is. Just constantly looking at it and reminding yourself that there is a silver lining. There are always two perspectives. You can look
Yeah.
at it from a different angle of half empty, or the other
Mm,
part is always half full. And when you look
right.
at things from a different perspective or another person's perspective, then you realize that you're in a better position. So that's what we need to share and remind people,
Mm,
and that builds resilience in my view.
yeah. I
So
love that you
that's
said,
what I tend to do.
yeah. I think one of the most powerful things that I've heard actually coming out from you, uh, that I've not heard enough of, or maybe ever, is that we are all resilient. We always talk about building resilience. We have to build resilience, build. But it's so settling when you say we are all resilient, period. That's very settling because there's no more into the future. We have to be resilient. We have to be resilient. We're all resilient. Very, very settling. I would like to ask you a more, a personal question, but I'll come to that in a while. Yeah, Shayan, what about you? What do you think works with your teams when it comes to building or making them feel that they are resilient?
Um, so I think again, it's it, I'm still figuring it out. Like, when you're face to face and you're constantly in touch and you're being able to walk over to somebody and have a chit, like a small chat on the floor, or go out and get a coffee, you can build a lot more quicker, because that's a natural instinct to kind of have a face to face discussion with somebody and build it. In this digital environment, we talked about it earlier, and we said that um, people question your genuineness on digital channels. And I know this sounds wrong to say, but it's like, because we're constantly setting time to do things and not having an informal way to interact with each other, it doesn't sometimes feel real. And so for me, the delivery of my message, whether that's about resilience or whether that's about mental health or whatever it is, that's very difficult to pass through on digital channels,
Mm,
on a video call or whatever else. So
right.
I'm still trying to find better ways to talk to. So one-on-one conversations are always great. Absolutely,
Mm,
the one-on-one. You can sit down with somebody and have a chat with them one-on-one and talk about life. But I
mm,
think that we have to find time to just be, allowing ourselves to be ourselves. So there should
mm,
be like time within that 8 hour stint where you were out for coffee or for lunch or for hanging out with people or at the water cooler or whatever it was. We have to build that into our digital work from home experience as well.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
you have 1 hour to just talk nonsense. And that actually is value additive
Oh, it's
because it's
huge.
real. It's real.
Huge. Yeah.
And we don't talk about work, or we don't force it. We're like, hey, whoever wants to join the conversation, we're talking shit for right now, and so just come on in and just join us. And there'd be
Yeah.
so many times when my somebody from my team would meet somebody for coffee and then come back and be like, boss, you know what I just heard? And you're like, oh yeah, really, you heard that? And then there's so much camaraderie you create because of these informal channels that you have. And I miss that.
Mm,
And I feel like part of building true resilience is to authenticate how we communicate us with each other, and kind of
right.
find a better, more real way to connect.
Fantastic.
So yeah.
Yeah, resilience is definitely, I mean, a key part of the research suggests that resilience is all about connection,
Hmm.
connection to yourself, connection to the people around you, and connection to the dream that you have, or whatever that state is that you're looking forward to. So, I thought, in summary, what you're trying to say is that it really is ultimately about conversations and kind of checking in with each other. One-on-ones do a
Hmm.
lot better. Digital platforms are just a little bit weird sometimes to build that.
Hmm.
Can kind of be done as well. Okay. So I thought I'd get personal, forget about work, since Shayan says that's the way to build real connection. So we'll take that and we'll just throw it out of the window. Would you be able to share, either one of you? I know this is a bit personal, so you can just pass if you like. What was the hardest moment in your life? And what helped the most?
Okay.
Only if you're willing to share it, or you can choose the second least intense thing, whatever you're comfortable with.
I think the hardest thing for me was losing my dad. So that was one of the most difficult periods in my life. Didn't expect it, so we're not prepared for it. We're still grappling with it, and not a day goes by that you don't think about what would be thinking, and what would he say if he was around.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that was one of the most difficult. It still is. You never get over such stuff. So yeah,
What helped you the most, Carol? What helped the most?
I think family,
Mm,
people around you, and knowing that prayers, and knowing that he's gone to a better place, he didn't suffer. There's a lot of reconciling that you need to do, and
mm,
somehow you just got to do it. But people around you um, actually help the situation, and only time does.
mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember one of the most, actually in the past few episodes, I've been hearing very similar things. The toughest time is losing a parent. And strangely enough, it's always been dads because, I mean, but coincidentally, I don't know, but it's the past interviews have been people sharing that the toughest moment was losing their dad. Maybe because women live longer, I'm not sure. Also, the other thing that I learned, and Carol was saying that maybe time is the only thing, right? So the other day I heard somebody saying time isn't the enemy, it is actually our friend. So we just keep wondering, right? Like when we're grieving, when are we finally going to get over this? But time is our only friend in situations like this as well. Carol, do you think we should be educated on grieving? Do you think we should be educated on how to deal with death before the death of our loved ones?
I think, well, personally, there's a series on everything, right? There's a 101 today, or an idiot guides to everything that we do in life. But I think grieving is something that you need
COVIDiots
to
guide
find.
now.
But I think that's something you need to find your own way of dealing with, because
Mm,
everyone deals with it differently.
mm,
Whether it's the process, whether it's time, whether it's people that help you go through it. Um, it's something that each person will go through in a different way. And I think everyone
mm.
needs to have their own guidebook on how they want to deal with it,
Right,
is my just very personal view. Yeah.
right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks. Shayan, would you like to share darkest moment and what really?
Darkest. I mean, while Carol was talking, I've had not one but several of those experiences actually of losing people very close to me, including my parents. And I think what I talk about is like my what I talked about earlier about having anxiety disorder or panic disorder, etc. ADD to some extent. As an adult, I have ADD. I think they're all manifestations, and some of those are mental, some of those are physiological, and you start feeling in your body that kind of struggle and that kind of pain. And so for grieving, I'd always say this, that if you personify grief, um, and think about how much people want to get rid of it, because people think that a grief, oh, it's not a good thing to grieve, grief is a bad thing, it's got negative connotations. But it's actually,
Mm,
if you personify it and you think of it as something that people are constantly trying to get rid of,
mm,
how would you feel, if that's how people were treating you? So I say
mm,
befriend grief, and I say go the opposite way, which is quite difficult because you're going deeper into the crevasse. But once you're there, and once you accept it, you actually get a lot of insights into yourself, into why you actually were feeling or are feeling that way, even today. Carol and I have talked about this, and I've talked about this with multiple people, and I've told you I'm going to a lot of therapy, but it still doesn't leave me. And so for me, I'd like to accept it as a big part of who I am and my personality, and
mm,
how it tends to manifest itself. And yeah, I just kind of live with that knowledge, with that
mm,
insight, which a lot of people don't have, by the way. So I
mm,
agree 100% that how to manage grief, how to deal with difficult situations should be something that we should be teaching in schools, in workplaces, and so on and so forth. It's not
mm,
something that people accept naturally.
mm. Right. Oh my God, both of you are amazing. I feel like I'm in class learning from the two of you. What I took away from that, Chayan, was that I think it's really powerful. We're always trying to get rid of it, right? Trying to get rid of the anger, trying to get rid of the grief, trying to get rid of panic, trying to get rid of all these negative things. And what you're trying to say is go the opposite way, go deeper into it.
Hmm.
And that's where you might really access yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah, that might be the opening to a lot of things as well. And you're absolutely correct. It not only manifests itself mentally, emotionally, but definitely it is the leading cause of diseases. So definitely it manifests itself physically as well.
Hmm.
So we're going to end off maybe on a lighter note. And I promise to buy you drinks when we are out and about again for having you open up. And I know we were making fun of having Gopi had to do that, but now everybody who comes here might have to do that. I think it's just amazing. I think it's just amazing to hear people like yourselves who are like, oh my God, let me read your titles, okay? Like one more time,
Yeah,
MD and country,
they're very convoluted.
corporate,
Forget it.
commercial,
Yeah.
banking, country. I mean, I think it just humanizes everyone when you hear these kind of stories. Everyone's on equal playing field again. I think that's what the world should be about. So, just one last thing, maybe could you share with us a time where a boss or a leader, and you're not allowed to say Andy because yeah, it has to be somebody else. Can you remember a time? Okay, maybe even including Andy. Can you remember a time where certain words said by a certain person at the right time really propelled you, really, really propelled you, and until today it sticks? So what was that for you? Maybe Cheyenne first.
Propelled me. Um,
Could even
no,
be like, yeah.
yeah, I think I can't remember which job it was actually. It's weird because it was actually still with HSBC. I was in Hong Kong at that time, and my boss at that time said, "You never need to make an excuse for who you are." And I thought that was really, really powerful, that somebody was willing to back me up for being myself. And I've stuck to that. I've kind of held on to that because I think the conversation was how we have to have different when the CEO we're like, "Whoa," and when we're talking to like somebody else, we're like, "Oh, well," we just kind of adopt all these different
Different
personas in
paths.
the
Yeah.
office. But I remember I came out of a meeting and he just looked at me and he goes, "Was that you or was that your representative?" And I go, "No, no, that was me." And he was like, "No," and he's like, "Don't ever make excuses for who you really are because people appreciate that." And I think that stuck with me for a very, very long time. So
Wow. Wow, that's really very, it's very settling, isn't it? Like when you just have that
mhm,
validation. And it's so unfortunate that sometimes we need it from somebody else, but it's really quite assuring, reassuring.
mhm.
Thanks for that. And Carol.
I was just thinking as Shayan was speaking, what sort of was mine. It was a mentor many years ago, and I was going through a bit of a downtime, who shared with me that you are always the creator of what you want. So you sort of create your own destiny. So, on there's some days that you feel just so like, oh, am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to do that? And all these self doubts creep in. And that's when his constant reminder is no, whatever you put your heart and mind to, there's no way, there's no two ways about it. So that's stuck to me. And that's sort of something that I've written and pasted on the study in the house to constantly remind myself, and that sort of become a reminder to everybody as well that if you put your heart to it, it's something you can definitely do. So you create what you want.
I've had an exceptional time speaking to both of you. I couldn't be more grateful. You would be the trendsetters because you're probably, I think, I'm not 100% sure. I need to look back at who we've interviewed, but the first few corporate business leaders who are talking about what's going on and also mental health and how it takes place or how it's being worked out in organizations and also your personal selves on Facebook. So at least for me, I don't know if there's something that we've done right, then this must be definitely one of it. So thank you so much for being so open, so candid. It makes my heart really happy knowing that there's so many amazing leaders out there. Yeah, just like the
Hey,
both of you.
thank you for being an absolutely amazing interviewer. I mean, that
Yeah.
was you asked the right trail of questions that brought us our darkest secrets, and we can never be the same again. So
So let's call Gopi.
yeah, let's go, Gopi. No, but thank you very much for the
Yeah,
invite. Thank you very much,
you're
both of
amazing.
you.
Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say
And
thank you,
thank you,
Hital. Thank
Carol.
you so much. Yeah,
yeah.
thanks,
I,
Shayan
I
and
wanted
Hital,
to
both.
I wanted to thank actually Carol for bringing Shayan on, and also Carol for introducing a couple of the other speakers before to come and speak with us. So I really appreciate that. I wish both of you the absolute best as parents, as human beings, as leaders, and please take care of your mental health as well. And yeah, I can't wait to meet both of you again very soon. And so here we are. I've been with Karel Doshi, country head MD of corporate commercial banking, HSBC, and Shayan Hazir, country head of global liquidity and cash management, HSBC. My name is Hetal Doshi. We have been chatting on our Facebook group, Mental Health at Work, a platform to really begin to have conversations that can support the well-being and success of our community. So see ya.
Bye. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
See ya.
Speak soon. Thank you. Bye bye.